Bob Dutko, evangelical Christian radio talk show host and apologist, next claims in his assertion that the Bible is scientifically true that the biblical text of Genesis gave advanced knowledge regarding the importance of vitamin K in instances of the mutilation of the male sex organ in infancy.
You know, God commanded Abraham to circumcise boys on day 8. You know this, right? If you read in Genesis 17:12, God instructed Abraham to circumcise boys on day 8. And even to this day, Jews will circumcise their children on the 8th day. And you wonder about the significance of the 8th day. You know, blood clotting is helped by vitamin K and something called prothrombin. Newborn babies have too little vitamin K at birth, which is why hospitals give them vitamin K shots before circumcising them. This is to help with blood clotting. For the first few days, a baby's vitamin K and prothrombin, their levels continue to rise, and then they drop down to a stable level. But there's one day when these levels are at their highest, at about 110% of the standard levels. It's the day that the baby would bleed the least and would be the most optimum time medically to be circumcised. And guess when that peak day is? That's right, day 8. How in the world did Moses and Abraham know that?
But why did God create human beings that would be born without enough vitamin K and prothrombin in the first place, putting every newborn, not just Jewish boys unfortunate enough to go under a rabbi's knife, in danger of bleeding to death in the first few critical days of life? That's a bigger question here. But the enormous question is, why would this God put little Jewish boys in such danger at all with this brutal sexual mutilation? If what's being argued here is the amazing scientific accuracy of the biblical text, specifically as it relates to the so-called medical foreknowledge of circumcision on day 8 when vitamin K and prothrombin levels are at their highest, what is the amazing medical reason for circumcision in the first place? J. Favre and R. Larry Overstreet assert that cancer in non-circumcised males is higher than it is in circumcised males. In their article, Moses and Preventative Medicine, in the journal Bibliotheca Sacra, a theological publication produced by the heavily conservative Dallas Theological Seminary, they write this increase in penile cancer in non-circumcised males is thought to be due primarily to the accumulation of smegma, a paste of bacteria and dead cells trapped under the foreskin. Statistically, the rate of penile cancer in men living in Brazil, where most are uncircumcised, is almost 70 times higher than in Israel, where most are circumcised. Favre and Overstreet are a psychiatrist and a retired pastor and seminary professor, respectively. What these authors fail to note is found on the American Cancer Society's own webpage. In the past, circumcision has been suggested as a way to prevent penile cancer. This was based on studies that reported much lower penile cancer rates among circumcised men than among uncircumcised men. But in some studies, the protective effect of circumcision was no longer seen after factors like smegma and phimosis were taken into account. In the United States, the risk of penile cancer is low even among uncircumcised men. Men who wish to lower their risk of penile cancer can do so by avoiding human papillomavirus infection and not smoking. Those who aren't circumcised can lower their risk of penile cancer by practicing good hygiene. Although infant circumcision can lower the risk of penile cancer, based on the risk of this cancer in the U.S., it would take over 900 circumcisions to prevent one case of penile cancer in this country. So rather than mutilating the male penis, why doesn't the Bible just prescribe proper cleaning of the genital area? But if severe health risks like cancer were found to be directly linked to the uncircumcised penis, why did God create human males with such a hotbed of disease and death? Surely it's just as easy to make a male without a foreskin as it is to make one with it. Nonetheless, Dutko goes on.
Now, I have to say there are some skeptics that try to dismiss the day 8 circumcision issue. But I just want to assure you, the skeptics are the ones that's wrong in this case. Have you ever heard of Dr. Armand Quick? Dr. Armand Quick, very well known and renowned expert on blood clotting. As a matter of fact, Time magazine listed him as the notable deaths on February 6, 1978. Here's what they said, quote, Dr. Armand James Quick, 83, renowned medical researcher who did pioneer work on blood disorders, died. Soon after getting his MD from Cornell, he developed what became known as the Quick test, a method of determining the clotting ability in a patient's blood. As a matter of fact, prothrombin time, this is something, I'll give you the Webster's Dictionary definition of this. The prothrombin time are measures of the extrinsic pathway to coagulation. They are used to determine the clotting tendency of blood. Now, in medical terminology, there's a blood clotting test called the Quick test. Who do you think the Quick test is named after? Dr. Armand Quick himself. You'll see why in a moment I'm building up the credibility of Dr. Armand Quick. He's also heralded in the annals of internal medicine as the pioneer and prophet of coagulation research and blood clotting. As a matter of fact, the Medical College of Wisconsin, they give out their award for outstanding senior medical students in biochemistry, and the award is called the Armand J. Quick Award. You know what Armand J. Quick says about the 8th day prothrombin levels reaching 110% of normal being the optimum time for circumcision? He says, quote, it hardly seems accidental that the rite of circumcision was postponed until the 8th day by the Mosaic Law, end quote. Remember, the benefit of the 8-day circumcision is that it's the peak point of vitamin K and prothrombin. It's also verified in the book, None of These Diseases, by Dr. S.I. McMillan, M.D., on page 92. So if you're having a boy and you plan to circumcise your baby and you're having a pediatrician perform the circumcision, I do not know a pediatrician in my state who will agree to perform it if the baby has not received a vitamin K shot. Jews will perform circumcisions on the 8th day of life according to Jewish law. Is it coincidence that this is when the baby's own production of vitamin K kicks up? I wish the medical community would acknowledge this 8th day circumcision a lot more. A lot of them, I hate to say it, don't even know it, or they dismiss it as a bunch of religious silliness, but the facts are this is true, and this fact was unknown to man just 100 years ago, let alone 3,500 years ago when Scripture was written about the 8th day circumcision.
It's disconcerting to hear Dutko gush over this barbaric practice, believing it somehow demonstrates remarkable advanced scientific knowledge. He marvels, is it coincidence that this, the 8th day, is when the baby's own production of vitamin K kicks up? No. As Dutko noted, Dr. Quick stated it is hardly accidental that the ancients practicing male circumcision would have chosen the 8th day. What did Dr. Quick mean by hardly accidental? Did he believe such knowledge was divinely inspired? Or ask yourself, how many Hebrew baby boys died until someone hit upon the pattern of the 8th day? And then answer how the provision might not have been accidental without appealing to supernatural intervention. But where in the Bible does it say the 8th day was chosen because of a baby boy's vitamin K and prothrombin levels? Again, we should see something of this nature if we are to accept Dutko's assertion that these passages are scientific insights that could not have come from normal human observation, something people thousands of years ago could not have known, and instead needed divine inspiration. A more important question, of course, if there really is a God, is why didn't that God intervene in this barbaric practice instead of being given credit for instigating it, putting baby boys at risk in the first place for nothing more than the religious mutilation of their private parts? Funding for this program was provided in part by the generous contributions of viewers like you via Patreon. Consider joining them at www.patreon.com/Bible Skeptic. Thank you.